Welcome to Season 3 of Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasic. I'm Mo, and every week I'm asking today's most captivating artists how they got their acts together. This show is not about their best or most famous work. It's about the work that means the most to them, their creative process, and why they make their art. I am very excited to be back with all of you. I hope you're feeling rested, restored, and ready for another season of creative processing. And if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm incredible. And so are my guests. This week's guest is an actor, producer, writer, director, and musician, and dear friend of mine. That's a pretty important credit. They've graced your screen on projects like Grey's Anatomy and Shrill. They've written for shows like Survival of the Thickest. They co-host the podcast Jocular. And as Fightmaster, they're the force behind the incredible EPs Violence and Bloodshed Baby. And I will say, please go listen to Violence. It is my favorite album of all time. And that is not because they are my friend. It is because my friend happens to be my favorite artist of all time. Please welcome to the pod, ER Fightmaster. Ready, set, show!
Yay! That was a great intro. I feel very honored.
Well, you should.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do. So achieved.
Oh, no. I could gas you up all day and it'd be 100% truth because, my dear friend, you're so talented.
Thank you, my guy. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy as a clam. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm in the a period of time right now where literally every hour of the day is feeling scheduled. And so I'm at capacity,
sure.
I'm at capacity.
Cradled by a calendar, yet overwhelmed by
dear Lord.
The structure. Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, I like to, as you know, as we do just in conversation, and listeners, if you want to go back to a comp that I joke of comp episodes, comparable would be Albertina Rizzo, is that usually as friends and as artists, we are constantly talking about our process together, constantly talking about making, about life, about emotions. But could you, I guess Too Long Didn't Read, I would like to start with your music. And if you want to start with the EPs you're working on or Violence or Bloodshed Baby, I would love for you to give a quick just summary to the listeners of your work.
Okay, Too Long Didn't Read. I used to be in a garage surf band called Twin. That was my first foray into music, and it started when I was out here in LA. It was my first foray into serious music because I'd done a lot of music and comedy for a long time. And then I transitioned out of that project and entered my Fightmaster era, which is kind of fun because you're putting your last name on something, but that also means that you're putting your last name on something, so it better fucking be good. And my first EP I wrote was Violence, and that was when I was falling in love. And then I wrote Bloodshed Baby, and that was an EP all about kind of the space that being loved by somebody creates for you to actually delve into your past and into trauma. And that was it's energetically feels like such a different thing, but it's so nice to be able to play shows where I'm playing Violence and Bloodshed, and Violence is such a sexy experience for me and the fans. We're having just such a horny time, and then Bloodshed has so much grief in it. And a little bit of psychosis. There's a song called Brick by Brick, which is just an absolutely psychotic, I will kill our captors kind of song. And now I'm working on a full length album, and it's cool. It's weird because it feels like having the space to write a full length has been more doing your daily pages where in order to write the full length, I built a studio in my place, and I'm currently looking at 2 computer monitors in front of these big speakers with all of this set up. I'm squeezing a mic in between my little MIDI keyboards and all this shit because every day I've been trying to make a demo, and then you make 10 demos and one of them is good and you take it to the studio. And so it's just there are daily beats or song of the day, whatever, that I've listened to, and I'm that is just a diary entry. And then there are songs where I'm there's a universality to this that will be fun to explore further with a producer. And so that's where I'm at. right now I'm in the throes of writing a full length that we will be taking on tour.
Woo! Okay, well, first of all, I love anything that's meta, right? And so when you're embodying the healing process, as anyone does through art, which is a dance back and forth between psychosis and sexy and creativity and pain and anger. And, even in your choice of covers between, Barracuda and Death Cab for Cutie, you're dancing between like the inside, the outside, the soft, the hard. But the thing that strikes me the most that makes me laugh about even everything you said the words like to put your name on it. And your name is Fightmaster. And everybody always says, you're like, put your last name on it. Everyone goes, wait, that's their name? That's their name?
Yeah, I mean, I really lucked out with my name. And I also lucked out with my name because I'm 6'1" and I am a little violent. So I think it'd be hard for me if I was like 5'4" and I was a pacifist. But that's never occurred to me to be short or a pacifist.
And it is like a battle call, right? It's a harkening back to when the tailors were named Taylor and the blacksmith was named Smith. Like your name does feel like an invitation to embody that and to be your name, to be who you are. And like you have even songs like about like it's just so many intimate things that are tied to identity when it comes to the dance of either performing someone or stepping up to who you always were.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I think that is kind of the nice thing about my last name is there is just inherently this weird little thing to live up to. Yeah, I feel lucky in that way. But it's also like, it's kind of freed me up to like lean into titles of albums that are like violence, that are like bloodshed, because I feel like I'm on theme with my existence here a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I'm excited for listeners to at least listen because you are, while there is that, brute force sexuality, I call you modern Brando, because you got that, my guy here. Everybody's slipping, sliding away. But you are also just internally very academic, and you study and are a Gemini, and right. And so I think I'm excited for people just to get a peek more, because sure, your daily repetition of practicing and trying to make music, but I think you are really not only grappling with your own trauma and experience, but you're grappling with concepts that you want to teach people about violence and love and what sort of resistance looks like in those ways.
I think that a fun thing about being specifically a queer artist is that we've had a lot of art made for us that's like very traumatic. You know what I mean? Like we, that idea of the trauma porn. But being queer is my favorite thing about me. And so I already have a fun perspective of like, here's this thing that we've been taught is bad, and I think it's wonderful. So without really trying much, like we're already like in this like world of subversion, right? Of like celebrating this thing that is like considered, well, at least
there's
when I was
norm.
growing up,
there's a consistent.
The way that they would have, like they would talk about, I would hear adults talk about like, oh, Sandra's kid just came out. It would be the exact same tone that they would use for like, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And it felt like it at the time.
It was. My favorite, Roger Ebert's review of the very problematic The Other Sister, he references, which is Juliette Lewis portraying I think cognitively, maybe Down syndrome, I'm not quite sure, but an able-bodied woman fully kind of really doing a I am Sam type thing. And in his review, he was like, I believe arguably the actual other sister is the gay one.
Oh my God.
I think about that all the time because it was the 90s. Yeah, literally. It was a disability. Oh, hello,
Sorry,
Chin.
if you guys heard that, that was my cat playing the piano.
Okay, talent.
Yeah, incredible talent. Just thinking of chords I never would have imagined. But yes, and there was such a gap in the representation. And representation gets overused a ton now, but like really there is a gap in media, like the way in which that we could consume our own existence in the media. So we had to create our own existence, which I think is why queer people are more interesting, because you were really like building yourself from scratch. There was nothing to model on. And as like important and like foundational as I think that experience was for me, I don't want every queer kid to have to be building from scratch. So like I have tried to make art in every format that they can consume that helps inform them of like options for their self, like options for their becoming. And like, getting to play a doctor on TV was cool because they have not seen that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this was one of the first non-binary characters on network TV, but it was also the first non-binary doctor ever shown. I think people really take it for granted that they're like,
they do.
Non-binary kids knew they could be a doctor. Well, like, not really.
No. Famously, women recently saw Captain Marvel and were like, I could be a superhero. And that is right, we're talking about female cis women who haven't seen themselves.
Right.
You're thinking non-binary people have seen themselves? Are you joking me? No. Not even close.
No, and trans and non-binary people are like less than 1% of the population, and then like consider how many of those people are kids. So this is a really small group of people. There's no givens for the representation. And now I feel like happy because I've had roles where I've been able to play like, yes, a doctor, but I've also been able to play like a love interest of someone who the audience understood as worthy of love.
Yes,
which is also seems like a weird thing to say, but like, you know,
it's an important thing to say.
It's getting to be the love interest of like Amelia Shepherd on the show. This is a doctor that they know and love, that they've seen on screen for like 14 years. And now she's in love with Kai. Great. Now they get to feel by proxy this like loved by Amelia.
Because they don't dismiss her. They don't dismiss her because they trust her and also perceive her in a heteronormative way. So there's more legitimacy given to her and her love relationships.
Right, and she's not a side plot. It's not this little like foray into gay. She's like a important character on the show that the show cannot do without, and she's in love with Kai. Great, that's important for this audience that can't imagine for themselves. Now they're invited in. I got to be a love interest on Shrill, and that was such a positive show. And I know we're like kind of phasing out of the word body positivity, but at the time that was the goal of the show, right? It was like based on Lindy West's book, which is all about,
at the time,
like,
it changed people's lives. Yeah,
100%.
Like they'd never seen it.
We're having conversations about plus size and fat bodies in a way that we never have before, and now people that are plus size women of color are seeing themselves loved by this little Twinkie non-binary guy. Great, that's me. I get to fill out that thing, and it's I don't take any of it for granted. Like all of it's very exciting for me. And then even being like a non-binary person in a writer's room, just understanding that those characters are going to be protected. Great. You know, and I was really lucky. I got to be on a show that Michelle Buteau, who's just, you know, such an icon of like creating space for women and plus size people and people of color, like anybody on the margins. I get to be a part of that writer's room. Great. Now I'm part of like this think tank of representation. And
it's also not a coincidence that a Black woman is the one lifting other people up at the table and like making sure those voices are heard.
And that was the coolest. That was just such a cool room. And I also shout out my showrunner, Danielle Sanchez Witzel, because she is also a woman of color. And so I was just like at the helm. I'm just in this room of mostly people of color and mostly queer, mostly women. And it was like a transformative experience of like, not all places need to feel bad. You know,
well, and I mean? it almost affirms all the things where you feel so gaslit when you're saying like these straight cis male, you know, white men run rooms, and you're saying all the reasons they feel cloying or awful or toxic or whatever it is, and then you're told no, and then you simply experience it without it, and you go, yes, oh, I'm right. Like all the ways you want to self-gaslight, you're like, no, it's actually easier to exist when I'm not under threat. Like,
and it's actually easier to make subversive jokes when you're not feeling like you have to defend a population. Like, I don't think that we would have felt comfortable making the jokes that we were making about race and sexuality and womanhood if we had been in a space that was filled with the patriarchs. You know what I mean? Like,
and not even defend or explain also how much energy is saying what this has value because this, like every bit of energy is being sucked. And so there isn't a flow of comedy, of jokes, of transmuting the bad thing to the funny thing. Yeah, it's
I can confidently say that it's better to work in rooms that are diverse, especially when you're when we're creating TV, like we're never creating actually a singular experience. We are creating a universal experience. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's Ozarks. When you're watching Ozarks and almost everybody is white, like you're still, there's something about the audience that's taking that on as a universality, right? So if all the shows that we're watching are primarily white, our brains, they go to well, that's right, white is universal. And so then creating art where actually the queer people are focused, Black people are focused, women are focused, that becomes, in the time that you spend inside of that show or that song or whatever, that becomes your understanding of the universal, which is like, that's important not just for queer people or people of color or women. That is important for white people. That is important for cis het people. That is important for everybody to spend that time in that universal space.
How do you balance that, though? Because, right, there's this dance of understanding how something is perceived and needing the importance of that, but also you can't control how your art's perceived. And so it's like, how do you walk that intention line of your intention is to show a world in, you know, which people can exist wonderfully, but also express your own just human emotions or whatever through a song, through a TV show?
You know, that's an interesting question because I think about Holden Caulfield a lot, A Catcher in the Rye.
Sure. Yeah, man.
And I think about that because he is having such actually a classic white boy experience.
Yeah, like, I'm really interested why you think about Holden Caulfield, because I famously was allergic to him in high school.
Well, I think about him because I didn't feel totally allergic to him. I was able to immediately, like, because we were reading so many white boy stories.
Well, Nick Carraway is the other grown-up version in The Great Gatsby of Holden Caulfield.
Yes, and so you are actually feeling, you're not feeling like Daisy, like, you know, when you read that book, like, you're not feeling like anybody other than Holden Caulfield. You're not feeling like anybody other than Carraway. You are feeling like the main character. Yeah. And there was no part of my brain when I was reading those things that were like, I wonder if he's able to and of course this is through the author, but I wonder if he's able to separate himself from his white boyhood and understand what his experience would be without it. His experience, he doesn't have an experience, it's just his outside of his white boyhood. He's just existing. And it's invisible to us because we're so inundated with white boyhood. But like, it would be impossible. We're told that's the water. For me. Yeah. Yes, I wouldn't be able to write anything else because I don't have that experience. I don't have any other experience than being like an anarchical queer. So that's where I'm writing from. That's it.
It's which is heaven.
Heaven on earth.
It is. It's heaven on earth, and it is radical itself to not mask or lens or translate your own work in that way. But you know, there's many roles going on here, and even you saying like of wanting to create art in many mediums so queer folks can see themselves in those. I'm just curious, process wise, right? Like, is that looking back? Like, is it? Because everything we do is for ourselves and it's a mirror and that's why it works, right? It was what you're saying. So is that because you needed to see yourself in all these different mediums, or a piece wasn't resonating, or you're just like an artist that plays, right? To see like, what would this taste like in this room? What would this taste like in the heat? Like, what if I cooked it with spice? Like, where is that actually stemming from in that multimedia expression of your identity?
Well, okay. So, you know, I think like when we talk about multi-hyphenates, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so much about it as being a multi-hyphenate. I actually think I do one thing, and it's I communicate. Right?
I love this.
And also, sorry about my gardeners. These are not my gardeners. These are my neighbor's gardeners. So if you can hear that, I would never use a leaf blower. I don't like them. That's not happening for me.
Why?
Now you can hear it. You got to be able to hear that.
Do people have problems with leaf blowers, or it's dust?
It's dust, it's bad for the environment, and leaf blowers they cause cancer for the people that are wearing them.
That tracks.
Yeah, it's like, which is like, okay, just like a little side quest, but like thinking about how also we know from studies how inhaling cleaning products are bad for, like, they cause cancer or they can cause long-term health problems. And you're thinking about like the populations that are handling cleaning products every day. So it's kind of a similar thing where I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't be wearing a leaf blower. I don't want anybody else to. And I don't like the noise.
No, I agree. But that's also an awareness of levels of privilege, of levels of like a step outside of yourself and realizing a systemic thing in a literal moment.
Yeah. That was our side quest.
Yeah, sorry. Great side quest, yeah.
I think for me as a storyteller, I've not ever tried to put like a cap on the way that the story gets told. So if it feels like this story is going to get told best through acting or embodying a stranger, then that's how it's going to get told. But if now that story is feeling a little bit separate from me, then I have to, as a storyteller, find different mediums for the storytelling. So it's like the multi-hyphenation is actually underneath of like this umbrella term that is like, I have to communicate this thing to you. And this communication is about our existence. And that it does not limit itself to one art form for me.
I really like this because I similarly view myself as a translator and as a connector, meaning I can find the connection between anything. I can translate what that means in your language, what that means in this language. And similar to your communication of this, feels like you're sieving it through almost like different layers to see what is the actual mother language to, it's like, oh, this doesn't translate well from music, but it does translate well from this, like this concept, this feeling.
Trying to keep a playfulness the whole time too, because I also think that like seriousness isn't always helping us. And I don't think that making fun of everything is always helping us either.
Do you think that comedians actually be making, like, I really mean this, the way people think comedians are the most serious people I know. What are we talking about? You know what I mean?
I think that's true too, but I think that comedians are able to convey serious messages inside of, we are packaging large scale concepts inside of fart jokes. Palatable ideas. And we're doing that so that you can hear them for the first time. Because if I come into a room full of conservatives and I immediately start using women and gender studies language, then I'm not going to make a difference in that room full of conservatives. But if I come in and in any way can kind of like, prove that I'm also there to have a nice time.
Hey, I'm just like you.
I'm just like you. I'm just a person.
I love to laugh.
Then I can have a seat at the table, and then I can start making jokes about like, we're not so different, you and I. And maybe for the first time,
we both hate our wife.
Ain't that the real joke? But they leave that table, and for the first time, they don't hate a non-binary person. Great. That was my big success of that day.
I mean, it is. It's such an interesting balance, and for, I think, the clarity on multi-hyphenates, I'm excited. It feels more resonant in the world because it's that sort of perception of like, did you know so-and-so paints? Did you know blah, blah, blah? And it's like, it's so weird to me that we've been fed this idea that and being an artist has to be one profitable thing. Like,
yeah. And that actually you're not taking your art seriously if you do multiple forms of your art.
Truly, you're diluting your power. You're not committing to one thing.
That's crazy. Actually one of the only questions that pisses me off of like, well, don't you think that if you just focused on one, I'm like, sweetheart, I couldn't, first of all, I'm like, the one that I'm focusing on is the communication. And I can't focus on fucking anything. Like the only thing I'm hearing right now is leaf blower. There's not enough concerta in the world to make me not hear the leaf blower right now. Okay, hey, my brain is saying leaf blower.
Do you know what's really sad though? Is sometimes I have a visual of like, why did this sound hook? Because sometimes I will never hear anything. But the second it's like you're in a movie theater and you hear somebody rustling their thing, the rest of the movie I'm listening for that bitch to fucking move.
100%.
I'm going, do it again. Do it again. And I go, why did that hook me? Why?
And why can't you fucking hear your little paw in that bag? Why can't you hear that that's absolutely destroying this movie?
Because you did it once. I get it. Rip open your thing. Babe, you're doing it every 5 minutes.
Do it fast.
Yeah. Do it fast. Do it done. You're enjoying yourself. I hope you're
it's kink for you, you sick fuck.
I am unconsensually a part of this fucking game. You fucking Angelica Theater ass bandit.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to miss an opportunity because I think talk about like a million different things. I think you and I also love to consume art that feels like what we're trying to do. And so many levels of what we're pinging go off in my head because one, I look at Fitzgerald with Gatsby and famously people believe that he stole Zelda Kredic's work, then locked her up in an insane asylum that did go up in flames, no problem. And
no big deal.
That was his wife, no problem. But at the same time, Holden Caulfield is like ultimately so entitled, but in a way every child should be able to feel like they're the outsider. And then
That's so true.
And you've been delving into Dostoevsky this summer. And I studied Russian literature and poetry in college. Yeah, I love to work. I love money.
Let's go.
But Dostoevsky, I was in love with in college. Specifically
oh my God, yes.
Because I liked him in contrast to Tolstoy. Because
Tolstoy. Oh my God. Yes. Fuck Tolstoy.
Yes. Fuck that rich little bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
God damn it.
You rich little. It's talk about a Nepo baby. Not even, I don't even know if he is, but it's like, it's giving Nepo baby art. And not the good Nepo babies, meaning the babies that are just given opportunity because of time and money.
No. The way that I was told to read Anna Karenina, because like I would like it in this like kind of like fallen woman Russian context. He fucking hates Anna Karenina. He hates her.
He kills her. He hates women.
Her. He hates women. Her. Like
yes.
and the guy that he's modeling himself after, what's his name? Levin.
Yeah.
The guy that he's modeling himself after is like, I'm not going to say an outright bad guy. He's an abuser.
Well, him and I always say Kitty and Lev with their hands, right? Where it's supposed to say everything that like he's back. Like what?
Well, and
he touched
the way
her hand.
She can't. Kitty's not allowed to talk to her male cousin.
Nope.
I don't know. I just don't understand how Kitty and Levin were the ones that we were supposed to be celebrating.
They're the good guys. Yeah,
they are the good guys. And then I felt so bad for Vronsky, and I felt so bad for Anna Karenina, and that is like not what you're supposed to take away from that book. And like, no fucking spoilers, but the last scene of that book has stuck with me for weeks now in such an unpleasant way. And
you just finished?
Yeah, it was like a couple months ago.
Oh, perfect timing. I didn't know you were doing Tolstoy's too. This is incredible.
Well, I hopped over because I was like, I had to actually, I started with Victor Hugo and Twillers of the Sea. And wow, holy God, Mo. You got to. I have an extra copy for you. You got to do it. It was just absolutely so beautiful, the way he writes about the darkness, the way he describes everything. And also, can I just say, what a little fag. Like,
I'll like that.
Is such a flowery homo, and he's obsessed with how smart he is in such like an almost like, not to insult anyone, but like obsessed with it, David Sedaris way. Where you're
but that's like my favorite kind of spectrum obsessed with it way, where it's like I'm gonna be clever about being smart because otherwise I'll die. Like
yes. And there's these like 15-page side stories about like him describing something, but in a funny way, just so that you know that he knows about every specific wind that crosses the sea, like literally going from the winds of like Barbados to the winds of like over.
And if you thought I didn't feel the shift in that wet, salty temperature, don't. Okay.
Bitch. So I start there, and then I go to Henry James, and I read Portrait of a Lady, and I love Henry James because Henry James loves women, and I also think that this man is closeted. This is not a man that had a bunch of relationships that we know about. And
really, I didn't get that specifically because of the adoration of women. I thought
he's writing about his cousin. Portrait of a Lady is his. That's the way that he feels about Isabel Archer. Is he's writing as Ralph, writing about watching his cousin.
I kind of got more of an asexual, like obsessed with intimate friendships vibe. Do you know what I mean?
And you're gonna say that's not queer.
No, it's queer. I just didn't think he was gay.
I'm gonna say for the time. I would say if that was a man that maybe could see himself a little bit more, maybe he would have had more intimate relationships. But since he had none, I'm gonna assume he's queer.
Okay, no, I'm on board with queer. Yeah.
Then I get to Crime and Punishment. I love Crime and Punishment.
You got to Crime and Punishment after these? Okay, wow, this is crazy.
I had the best fucking time in Crime and Punishment, and I fell in love with Dostoevsky because I think, unlike Holden Caulfield, I think Dostoevsky is writing about incels. He's right, and actually, like I've been told
outsiders, quote unquote.
100%. And I've been told, as like somebody who hasn't read the book and it has only had this book described to me by white men, that it's about this genius that commits a murder, blah blah blah. And Dostoevsky.
I'm sorry, that's how it was described to you?
Yes, and Dostoevsky, and actually about how dark the book is. First of all, the book is fucking hilarious. He writes it like a play.
Russians are the funniest motherfuckers, and Chekhov and Dostoevsky are some of the funniest people that have ever lived.
Absolutely. He's so funny. I laughed out loud. I had a blast. And he fucking hates Raskolnikov. He hates him, but he hates him in a way of like, the way that you hate aspects of yourself.
The worst part of yourself. Yes, literally, yes.
It's not the way that Tolstoy hates Anna Karenina because he hates women. It's the way that Dostoevsky is like, me at my worst. I'm a fucking mid-level, mid-thought idiot who thinks it's so important that I can harm other people in the quest to express my greatness without doing any labor. Great. He's writing about the incel movement. Unfucking real. Unfucking real book. And now I'm on The Idiot, which is like what Dostoevsky wrote after Crime and Punishment, because he's like, okay, great. I've written the most evil character I can possibly imagine, which is just like an average white man who thinks he's great. Perfection. Truly. Now I'm writing about Christ. And so he's writing about the idiot is like it's a version of Christ. And it's just that we think in our culture that anybody who is trusting of others, that takes you at your word, that wants to help other people, that's not bad to women, that is respectful, that doesn't care about money. We think that these people are idiots because why would you give so much away? And he's like, you know, that's you have to understand your context. It's about like understanding your context of like, I want you to know that you live in a world in which you would think Christ was an idiot.
Okay, wait. So here's what's so exciting, though, because I think the reason he is so electric and you and I enjoy Dostoevsky is one, right? Context is so important to incels. In fact, directly ignoring context is the biggest part to them. Because it's like, I got in this fight with this man who was giving Reddit the house down boots. And he was saying things like, well, literally everybody does manipulate. I could be manipulative of you. I go, but context matters. You know, well, not really. Like I'm in it. So it was a huge annoying fight. And it was a friend of a friend, so I had to stay there. And that's why I stayed fighting, because I said, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to throw hands. But to me, right, Dostoevsky is me watching that because there's no context. And he's saying, look at the way you remove context, and you call the best thing dumb, and you call the most fucking dumb shit genius. And because there's no context. And what he did when he was writing Crime and Punishment is Raskolnikov is, for listeners who haven't read, is slowly going crazy, like fully fucking insane. And Dostoevsky didn't have a lot of money at the time, was fully panicked, trying to write shit. And he was channeling his manic, whatever the fuck was going on, his psychosis of, I don't know if I'm going to get food, I don't know if I'm ever going to finish this thing, into the character. And he was using it as an outlet for this part of him that was like, you're never going to make it, you're not going to eat, you're all these very real things. So it resonates in the art differently because it is real. It is lived. It is not his idea of a woman. It is not his idea of a man in psychosis. He hates Raskolnikov, but he does not judge the actions or edit them because he hates it. No,
he hates them like we hate ourselves after we've had a night of drinking and we've shared too much.
Exactly that.
He hates how familiar Raskolnikov is. And as a person who's deeply afraid, like deep fear is mediocrity, I could feel from Dostoevsky, like, if I were to write the most mediocre version of myself, like the angriest, most mediocre version of myself, I would fucking hate that character, but I would have all of the references of self to make that real. And boy, does he. It's just such a masterpiece, but I don't think for the reasons that we're talking about it.
Yes.
And I like also that Dostoevsky is talking about the incel movement in such a way that you're actually like, it feels so familiar that all of these conversations about the male loneliness epidemic and like all these, you know, what's happening for us politically right now, we're like, oh, well, this was created out of this and this and this and this, and it's not a modern epidemic. It's not a modern epidemic at all.
What a crazy thing to say.
Epidemic. It is a forever of all time epidemic.
It's timeless. And the loneliness does not stem from a lack of intimacy or availability to that. It stems from a desire to have power.
To dominate.
Yes.
To dominate without work. Like, to dominate without actual work ethic. Yes.
And what is horrible about now is that it is co-opting a language that says toxic masculinity does hurt everyone. We should raise men and women in environments that are... And so it's co-opting that language to almost seem like it is an alm or inclusive. To almost see... And it's so violent to say that men are lonely, let's take care of them again.
No, I'm sorry. Chim is like also he's panting like a dog right now, and he's running and jumping on a fish, and he's just, because I'm working with you, he just wants to show me how athletic he is. He never does this. And so it's leaf blower, it's Chim.
Yeah, listen, Chim can feel psychic energy in a swirl and a vortex. And Chim, for listeners, is ER's ragdoll cat. Or am I allowed to share?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And Chim and I have a very powerful connection, is what I would say. And I'm proud of that big, strong boy. And Chim's parent maybe, you know, is a more, you know, sturdy father that sort of maybe doesn't give his offering of how I want him to be a big, strong boy. And do you feel this way?
I actually feel like I've made a Raskolnikov. Like if I could rename Chim, that's what, because I feel like Raskolnikov's mother. Like the most cheater I feel is towards Chim.
Wow, I know Chim's really good on your edge.
I mean, I'm truly walking into the house and just being like, my biggest, most handsome boy.
Okay.
My boy can speak English. My boy's so smart. And he's an idiot.
I didn't know this was happening in the home. I have to say that right now.
You know, he's an idiot. I'm gassing him up. I'm like
I thought you were being big, strong baseball dad, and I'm finding out that you're Marilyn Monroe. I can't believe this.
Yes.
I can't believe this.
Yes. And I'm gassing up my Kennedy.
No wonder he likes my big, strong energy. Because I have boundaries.
Yeah, I don't have any boundaries with the cats. The cats are, I live at their whim. They are my family.
Hey, I do that with my own. Vanya, my son. Talk of the devil.
Oh my God. Speak of the queen himself.
But okay, wait, okay. So we're all
incels.
But in a very fun way, because I think what excites us, right? And to me, this is the commonality when people are asking about people's process, when they're watching videos of wake up in the morning and write this thing, or, you know, ER made a studio and they practice every day. I go, none of that fucking matters. How do you feel when you read something? What do you think about? How does it affect your life? How do you see in 360? Where are you excited by art that is not yours or have any monetary value to having read it or written it?
Yeah.
And I feel like you have to start there.
Well, and that's hard too, right? Because we do live, we're talking about a context, we do live in capitalism. And so you have to continue to make at least some art that resonates enough that you can eat. And so it's hard to, and Raskolnikov doesn't make any fucking, that's why he's literally starving. He's literally sick the entire time he's starving because he makes nothing that resonates.
It makes you not trust him too, because you're like, do you just need food? Like, are you maybe normal and you just need to stop drinking?
He gets 20 kopecks and he gives them away. I like, because he actually doesn't want to succeed. Like, I think that is a weird thing about like that cursed white boy mentality too, is like,
they're succeeding at what they want, which is to be a victim.
Is Maggie Nelson. Maggie Nelson.
Oh, yes.
Maggie Nelson talks about
Argonauts, author, and of what was the most recent one called?
Unbelievable Philosopher, and wrote a book called On Freedom.
On Freedom, that was the incredible one, yeah.
Yes, and Maggie writes about how white boys in culture, in movies, in books, whatever, we get a lot of like these stories about drug use or sobriety journeys or whatever, that it all is centering around this experience that they're creating for themselves of devastation or of being out of body or of pain. Like, they have to create it though. It has to be manufactured because they don't live in a world, a lot of them, I'm sure, you know, we're not talking about everybody, but they don't live in a world in which they're fully on the margins just on a day-to-day basis. And so these like drug stories are supposed to be these like massive Grecian epics for us, but actually like a Grecian epic is what it takes for a trans woman to walk down the street. Like, truly, in a fascist society that's like trying to kill her and make her body illegal. Like, that's the epic. We don't need any drugs to infuse into our stories to make them sadder or harder than they are. And white boys, they love sadness, I think, in the same way that I love joy. I love joy because it's actually subversive. I think sadness is subversive for white boys in a white Christian patriarchy. Because what do they have to be sad
It's also a vacation.
About?
It's a vacation in many ways.
Yes, where joy is a vacation for queer people. That's why we love community so much.
100%. And that's why it always interests me when I, you know, and you who've experienced a lot in your life on top of queerness, on top of adversity, right? Like, then when someone's like, why don't you like, even something as simple as like, why don't you like horror? Why don't you like blah, blah? I go, that's literally fine. And don't take this literally, folks who like do like it and have experienced hard stuff. But when you have the like, what is it called? You're indignant that somebody doesn't choose that or doesn't like that. That's where I go, what's going on here? Because I'm actively choosing to keep my nervous system regulated. Why are you telling me I should not do that? I have an awareness. Are you worried that I'm somebody who is avoiding pain? Are you like, there's many normal answers, but most societally, it's not. It's, I want you to be miserable too. I want you to not fight for your joy. I want you to be just like me, stuck.
Or just a lack of empathy for why, lack of empathy for why you wouldn't want. So like my partner and I have started fast forwarding through rape scenes.
I do the same. Yeah.
I don't need to see it, girl.
Baby.
I know it. I know what it's like. I lived that. I spent time
no problem.
there. I don't need her. I'm good on that.
You know, Meryl Streep doesn't need to go into an on-camera class, and I don't need to watch a rape scene, okay? We all know, we know where we're good.
I studied, okay? I took my time. That's actually my minor. You know what I'm saying? So we fast forward through that, and you know what? Movies are more enjoyable that way.
Yeah.
Like it, and so now I get to watch. Like I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I did not watch Game of Thrones because there were too many things to fast forward through it. I felt that the threat of rape was so constant.
House of the Dragon opened up first episode with cutting a woman open for pregnancy, and I said no more. I'm not watching anymore. I love those actors. I wish no more.
No, and you know what? There's. I don't have any heat on anybody who works so hard to make that show happen, and I couldn't participate. The woman that we're like rooting for the most, the Mother of Dragons, and she's such an exceptional actor, and you know, obviously watch her performance whenever you can. I couldn't get behind the fact that her storyline is like, no, she was raped by that big dude, but it's like marital rape because she was given to him. And now, because she's been able to overcome it, she's like becoming this force. Like, I don't need it. I don't want it.
Because it's still within a man's narrative. It's still within. 100%. It's not hers. It's her empowerment is like taking herself back from the boy. Or even, I remember at that time, it was like when people were really actively talking about it, they would classify marital rape. And it was weird, the distinction that people continually make. And even that impulse to be like, well, the story's, just so you know, in case you're confused, whether or not, like, what's this or not, what's a violation. And I'm like, well, she was taken. Yeah, I was like, she was taken kind of from there. I already am not questioning it.
Yeah. I don't understand men writing rape. I don't get it.
But I do. It's violence.
Oh, it is total violence. It is like, I had a little bit of a hard time with Django Unchained. Like,
of course.
Of
course.
Now I think about that, and I didn't want it. I didn't need it, and I didn't want it from Tarantino's perspective. And I don't love that, like, on my TikTok, I get videos of, like, Leonardo's incredible performance in that, because I'm like, what is fucking incredible about, like, playing truly what we are, which is like colonizers and abusers and white supremacists. Like, what is actually incredible about that? What is it? But if I were to, I do think that, I'm sorry, I'm going to make like an insane little tie-in here. Then you read something like The Color Purple, and you're not talking about like slavery necessarily, but you are talking about the Jim Crow South and all of these things.
Yes.
And that is coming from the perspective of a Black woman. And that, to me, is one of, like, I mean, I think for a lot of people, that is one of the most beautiful and heart-wrenching stories of all time. And reading Seeley in that book was actually, seriously, was one of my first interactions with queerness.
Really?
100%. I remember, I like could get choked up about it now, but it was like, I remember reading that book and just like, it felt like one of those things at like a high school that was like mostly white kids of like, oh my God, we have to read The Color Purple. But I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we just didn't, have the language for being gay. We really didn't know what we were doing. And then I was reading this book, and of course they never say gay, but that in some ways that was so much more powerful.
Of course. It was like, you couldn't say gay. People couldn't say gay at the time, whatever. Yeah.
And what Seeley is feeling for that woman is like
The longing.
was what I was feeling. You know what I mean? And this idea that she has to be, that this woman actually has to be with this bad man because this is the society that we live in. I was just so fucking taken out by that book. I was not taken out by Django Unchained.
Well, because this is what we're talking about with so like Alice Walker is also a poet, right? Like not just a playwright, not just a novelist. Like it's like there's something intangible of that abstract experience that she's trying to ground and that she experienced, and not literally, but I mean like in just being a Black woman, right? Like just perspective wise, whereas it is lived, meaning Tarantino then. And I understand there are so many people that are like, well, we have Jackie Brown. He actually is like advocating for, and you know, I remember an interview he did with Terry Gross about he refuses to show animal violence and like wants to be camp, and it has his own explanation, which is fine. It is like literally that all those things are okay. Django could still be good, but we're speaking to the feeling of art as a means of like alchemy, or as a means of saying, I thought about this thing and I'm going to tell you about it.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I know that Django is like the story of like, you know, an enslaved man, like, you know, getting his revenge. But
empowerment,
I do think that the white boys that watched that, they felt like Leo. And so
but they also felt entitled to the N-word a billion times,
oh
right? Like,
my God. Yes. But fun fact, homie to homie, I got to meet Alice Walker and I panicked, and so I got a photo with her, but I panicked and I went,
oh, that's really sweet.
It's a devastating photo.
Listeners,
and it's just
thumbs up in the
I'm cheesing. My lips are doing a weird thing. My teeth are coming out, almost out of my head, like falling out in like a dentist would worry about it way.
Because you're meeting a living art, like powerful artist. That's crazy.
Yes, and she was like so, you know, just obviously so transformative. And I don't know what happened. I just panicked, and that's what I did. And now she's like sitting there like Buddha. Like she's so calm. She's so present. She's like smiling mildly, and I am behind her. Looking like I'm this close from saying let's fucking go. That's it.
It's also like you met. It feels like you got a meet and greet with like Joey Fatone. That's what that feels like. Like you're from NSYNC. Thumbs up.
It's literally when I was like 11 years old. I did a meet and greet with the cast of Napoleon Dynamite, and I made the same fucking face. So yeah. So that's one of my great shames.
To me, that's such a affirmation of how much she means to you in that way, which is so funny because it's like, hi.
Oh yeah, absolute panic down.
But yeah, this is a conversation though, right? That like is stolen because nuance is gone because people go, then they immediately go talk about Tarantino. I'm not speaking. He does what he does so well. We are speaking to why that person does that, why they feel that's the story they need to tell from their perspective, why also. Like, does art feel more resonant when it's told by someone talking about a lived experience? Even if it's not a literal one, it is a transmuted one. And it matters. It's important. And you're not throwing the baby with the bathwater out. What is that? It's a bad thing, but whatever.
Oh, God. And then Jamie Foxx gave that interview where he's, like, explaining, and it's kind of, like, being said in this fun way, but, like, we've all worked in the industry long enough to know that, like, sometimes you talk about a great trauma like it's, like, hilarious.
Yeah, like we just did with rape. Yeah.
LOL, LMFAO. And
Party Rock is in the house tonight.
And Jamie Foxx is like, you know, I was trying to make Django so articulate. And
which is such a coded
walked
word.
Up to me and was like, he's not fucking articulate. He's a slave. He's and gives him this rant. And Jamie is like kind of talking about like, so that really informed the character. And I'm like, my
Fuck.
God.
You said everything right there.
My God.
Fuck.
My God. Anyway, that's why I like queer art.
But it's also like the fury that like Alice Walker is including queerness and lifting up all other voices that like these marginalized communities yet still choose to include, yet still embody inclusion and break down doors for, you know, the people right under the white guys. Like, it's like, there's such a level,
we're also not, we're not talking, like, we have enough of a theme here of, like, even look at, like, Blue is the Warmest Color, and, like, I love that movie, and I think that the acting performances are unfucking believable. And the Europeans are doing everything so much better than us as actors. It's, like, nuts. And those actors had a bad fucking time, and they felt very abused because that director was a cis-het man who had no business telling that story, and that's where we are. Like,
and both truths exist.
Even when they're making the art that, like, maybe is helpful to the community, there is gonna be some harm done that maybe doesn't need to be done if we put a queer person at the helm of the film.
It doesn't need to be done because then obviously these actors can put that energy into the work. It's probably why it feels so real, but that's not their job.
Yeah, no one's arguing that Léa Seydoux has done a bad job in every other film that she's done. That's not the case. No. She would have been able to get embodied into the character without feeling like she got sexually assaulted.
Exactly. And that's like it's not even nuanced conversation. It's a conversation that's threatening. And so people become so uncomfortable. They don't allow it to come into their art, and they say, let me just focus on this, the things I like. And it's like, well, you're actually ignoring the most fruitful thing right in front of you existing for art, for music, for you looking violent straight on, to bring it back to your work. You applying, right, the same levels of adversity that you have, but also privilege that you have, but also anger, and putting it into violence as both a societal thing, but a personal experience is the only thing you can do with this feeling, and do it ethically and do it well.
I think with violence also I was trying to do this thing with violence where I took a word that we're not supposed to have. We are not supposed to have it. Queer people are not supposed to be violent.
No.
In the same
peaceful.
Way
be peaceful.
It's the same reason why we talk about, like, non-violent revolutions just so much more in school when we're talking about, like, history.
And we don't talk about Malcolm X. We talk about Martin.
Yes, and Malcolm X is, like, this, a known villain to the American public.
Yes.
So violence, bad if violence given to the margins, if violence taken by the margins. Violence not bad if police must do violence. And so I have to convey this idea that I'm having that's this like persistent through line in, like, my brain at that time of, like, talking about violence while falling in love. And so I got to morph the two of them together to be like, to give the listener a horny experience of taking on the word violence, of not having violence put upon them, but about taking it on. Like, I'm talking about the violence of falling in love with a partner and how it's just, like, absolutely ravaging your chemicals, it's ravaging your body, it's all this stuff. But in taking it on like that, I am giving it to my queer listeners in a way that maybe they weren't allowed to have it before. And I felt the same way about Bloodshed Baby. Like, the reason that album got called that is because there's a line that's like, I'm not afraid of a little bloodshed baby. And it's bloodshed, comma, baby was, like, the lyric. But then I kept, when I was, like, listening to that in the studio, I was like, oh, bloodshed baby is a kind of great way to describe kids that are growing up in the margins. And, like, these kids that aren't afraid of war because they've grown up in it. And when we went on tour, I can't believe how it's still fucking happening. But we were having conversations with the audience about, like, yes, the bloodshed baby is, like, it's queer people that are growing up in a fascist state, but it's also the kids in Palestine that are, like, growing up in a world in which they actually they have no reference for a world without war. They only
know war. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I think, and that's not my story to tell. That is not my story to tell, but I can't help but find these, like, through lines of, like, experiences of the people that do spend their entirety of their existence on the margins. That's, like, a thing that my little women and gender studies brain thinks about all the time. And so I do think it sneaks into these, like, life
It should, though, because when you tell your story, when you're able to go into that room with those old white guys, right, and, like, make the joke, the Palestinian isn't able to, right, whatever it is. So it's like, and then when you do this for yourself, and then also, at least advocate or give other people a platform to tell their own story. That is how we connect. That is how you communicate, by doing that.
Yes. And I felt a real I felt a real strange satisfaction when I realized like how many kids really identified with the phrasing, like really identified with like being a bloodshed baby. That was cool.
I'll never when you posted in your stories, there's when they dropped the Bloodshed Baby, the actual just the single, right? Not even the whole EP. The cover is them as this like perfect, clearly queer child who is just so rock and roll and strong, and all these listeners and fans and people started posting, oh, I'll cry again, photos of themselves as young queers who were unseen and but also so visible. And these pictures are so beautiful because these people were like, yeah, you were in it, friend. And they get to affirm their younger selves.
I can't believe how gaslit we were as little queer kids.
Yeah.
Like there's no looking at these photos of me or of any of the kids that I reposted and thinking that these are straight children. It's a bizarre gaslighting that we have to get over. And I think when people perceive like there's a joke about the angry feminist or the angry queer or whatever, these militant queers, but I think that we actually are imbued with a little bit of paranoia because we spent usually 2 decades of our lives being told that our very obvious existence was not so obvious to others. And
yes,
and so I'm like, we're a little irritable. Yeah,
sorry,
we're mad.
Our volume was at 10 and everyone said it was at 2. So then now that you can supposedly hear us, it's like, sorry, it's hard to not shout. Like,
and yet my least favorite thing is when the people that didn't affirm your identity at all are like, I knew the whole time. And you're like, well, why didn't you fucking say something, you little rat monkey?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people are sociopaths. Okay, well, we have to come to my final segment on that note.
Okay.
And my final segment is apropos for this conversation because it is called Thank You for Holding My Poems. And it is inspired by the Russian poet Anna Akhmatova, who during the Great Terror in Russia, it was illegal to publish poems of resistance. So her and her creative collaborators and other creators or artists memorized edits of each other's work over the course of 30 years. And something moves me so deeply about bringing something unfinished, bringing something raw, and having it be held and witnessed by someone else. And so to me, a poem that I have my guests share can be a day where you felt worthless and a barista said, I like your hair. Or it can be when you felt brave enough to start playing music. It can be the Sistine Chapel, but it is a moment of being held unfinished and incomplete, yet being totally full.
Okay, mine's gonna be a little random, I think.
I love them. They always are.
The most moved I think I've been in the last few years was I took a trip to Sicily. And there is a little town, and Sicily just has a story that is not unlike most women's story, where Sicily is like kind of known as this like island of multiple conquerors. Like, we have the Moors that come in, and we've got the Normans that come in, and we've got the Greeks, whatever. We've got like all of these people that are trying to take over Sicily. And every time they get there, oh my God. Every time they get there, they fall in love with the people. And so they're all expecting to land there and to conquer it. And instead what happens is they all start families. And whenever a group of conquerors leaves that island, they leave behind like a gift. Like they leave behind a fucking school or a hospital or a church. Like it's so intense because
thanks for the visit.
The Sicilians, which now represent like the women of the world, are so fantastic and their culture is so beautiful that the conquerors are like, maybe we'll take yours instead of you taking ours.
Wow.
And there is a church in Sicily that I walked into I like immediately started crying. And it's so cool because this church has a mix of Greek Orthodox artwork and Moorish artwork. Like all these just beautiful, like Islamic symbols, like just and absolutely stunning. And like the Greek use of like gold plate and then it's got the Norman artwork, like all this like gorgeous old like French, like he's telling the stories through the painting, telling the stories of the Bible through the painting. And None of them, even though they're conquering one after another, none of them strip the artwork of The Last Conqueror. And they all kind of leave it as this like homage to the people of Sicily. So it's like all of this resources that while they're there, while they stay there, and while they're building families and a life there and taking on like all this Sicilian culture, they are all working. They all work separately to create this beautiful thing. And it's just in the center of Sicily, and they love it, and they show it off as one of their own. And for some reason, I just could not contain myself. I lost my fucking mind. And I think part of the thing that really like resonated with me is that we have all of these ideas of, you know, we live in a culture of domination. We live in a culture that is ecocidal. We're trying to kill our own earth, the earth that we live on. We're trying to rape women, and then we talk about a loneliness epidemic. We're trying to ostracize queers, and then we talk about a lack of culture. Like we've got so much violence that is inherent to our culture, all this domination that we try to do.
Yeah. And
actually the happiness of Sicily comes from when the dominators come and realize that they don't want to dominate at all. They just want to integrate. And it rocked my fucking world. And I think it's about these conversations that we have of masculinity being this thing that actually wants to crush femininity. It's not. Masculinity at its healthiest is in worship of femininity. And I think that I've been lucky to be a part of a lot of art projects where actually like even as a white person in a room of mostly Black writers, I got to be integrated into a space that was like truly holy, like truly such a beautiful experience. And I didn't go in there trying to like establish my white identity and dominate that room. I just wanted to be with them. I wanted to learn from those writers who are more experienced than me. And I had a beautiful time. And I feel that way about everything. There's so much more that we can get from people than we can take from people. And taking a thing ruins it. Receiving a gift is what really makes us happy. So that's the last thing that's my poem.
That's a heavenly poem, because it's also like the ability to welcome in the other is at the same, it's like so divinely receptive of, it is also crazy that you're talking about this today, because I told you, I got out of therapy 30 minutes before this, and of course I was talking about Michael Corleone, no problem.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, my tattoo on my wrist is Apollonia, and it is specifically because I resonate so much with like Michael, but he went to Sicily, and Apollonia is tattooed because I feel like the most masculine movie in all of media is the only reason it exists is because Apollonia was taken away, that he had peace and they had to go find him and kill the very thing that was his pure love and joy to try and draw him back to war. And when I saw that movie, I could only think of her and how powerful she was, not because she was a victim, but because she's the reason that any of this exists. And she's Sicilian. They go there for peace. It is Michael Corleone is leaving and they literally try and bring violence to that space. And it feels so apropos of what you're saying of this divine feminine, masculine artistry. And are you willing to receive when you feel even threatened, right? Like that is so deeply powerful. Are you still able to welcome his family onto the island? Fuck.
God damn it.
That's crazy.
I love talking to you. You know it.
I love talking to you with my whole heart. Can you tell my beautiful listeners? I love your brain. Can you tell my listeners where they can find you and listen to your beautiful work?
You can find me on all platforms streaming. It's under Fightmaster. It's all caps. And I'm going to have new music for you really shortly, maybe by the time this comes out. And I'm really excited about it. And you can find me at Genderless Gapad on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok at ER Fightmaster. You can listen to my podcast Jocular if you like women's sports.
Say that.
Otherwise, I'll just see you at the shows.
Yes. Okay. Well, I end every podcast by giving my listeners and you a compliment. And please know I don't think of adjectives as gendered. And I always say, oh my God, you're so pretty.
Oh. Thank you.
Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasic is hosted by me, Mo Fry Pasic. You can learn more about this week's guest and the Worse Than You team by checking out the show and episode copy. Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasic is executive produced by Erica Getto, Myrriah Gossett, and Lauren Mandel for Good Get and Disco Nap Productions. Oh my God, you're so pretty.
My biggest, most handsome boy.